Good evening, everyone. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Welcome to my class, The Daily Current Affairs. These classes premiere on a daily basis from Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. Do watch it because it is important for us to understand how prelims work. Later on, mains has a defined syllabus, but prelims is very expansive in nature. That is why I have brought this class on a daily basis, as well as the PDFs will be available through my Telegram channel, Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, do talk to me on my Instagram. So these are the various events that I have to cover today. Let's solve the practice question together. Which of the following cities or towns has recently become Madhya Pradesh's first solar-powered town? The correct answer to this question is, of course, B, Sanchi. Many of you have answered it correctly. Sanchi, which is of great cultural and religious significance from the significance of Buddhism, has become Madhya Pradesh's first solar-powered town. That means the electricity that will be generated and given to it will be supplied with the help of solar panels. Sanchi was built as a sacred site for Buddhism, and it has now become Madhya Pradesh's first solar-powered town. It is just 46 kilometers away from Bhopal. There are approximately about 1600 homes as well as government buildings that will largely rely on a 3 megawatt solar facility located in a hill in Nagori village. Now, this particular village will be providing through 5,572 solar panels, which is spread over an area of 4.98 hectares to ensure supply from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., which is adequate for Sanchi's morning load of around 1.5 megawatt. It will also reduce 13,747 tons of carbon emissions. That is very important from the perspective of achieving our national declaration that we have to achieve this much of capacity of carbon sequestration as well as using renewable energy. That is why Sanchi is going to be one of the pivotal points here. Claudia Golding, who recently won the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences, has been awarded for what? Her work in the upliftment of women in the war-struck area, her work in proving the glass cliff theory, her work for women in the care economy, or providing the first comprehensive account of women's earning and labor market participation through the centuries. Claudia Golding has recently won the Nobel Prize in Economics, although the Nobel Puritans, those people who do not agree that apart from the 5 prize that was given in Alfred Nobel's will, apart from these 5 prizes, there is no other Nobel. They do not consider the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences as the actual Nobel. However, it was added in 1968. 1968, when Sergei Riksbank gave a fund to the main fund from which Nobel Prize is given, so that they can establish the Nobel Prize in Economics. The correct answer to this question is option D, providing the first comprehensive account of women's earnings and labor market participation through the centuries. Option D is correct over here. She is an American economic historian. Remember that, because sometimes a country from which the Nobel laureates belong can also be asked, their work can be asked, their names can be asked, or in which category they have been awarded. Everything that is relevant to them, you have to know about it. She won the 2023 Nobel Economic Prize for having advanced our understanding of women's labor market outcome. How participative are women in the labor market? Of course, considering the amount of women in the population, it is important for the economies to go forward with the help of women participation, because women hold up half of the sky. Sergei Riksbank Prize, it was formerly known as, but they created it, it was formerly known as this, but they created it in the memory of Alfred Nobel only, and the amount that the person wins is approximately 11 million Swedish kroner. That is a lot. Moving on, consider the following statements. When the Qing dynasty established its suzerainty over Tibet, Tibetans remained largely free of any direct Chinese interference in their affairs. The Chinese Communist Party had made it a top priority to annex Tibet after the proclamation of the People's Republic of China on October 1st, 1949. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? On 7th October, of course, this year, we again observed the annexation and invasion of Tibet by China. Back then, there were many regions that came to know about Chinese invasion of Tibet after so many years. It was after so many years that the news reached them. It is really very bizarre for us right now, but of course back then it wasn't so. So even before the proclamation of People's Republic of China on October 1949, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, had made it a top priority to annex Tibet. Why? Because of course they had to ensure that the southern region of China is much more secure. And to bolster that, they only saw one thing, Tibet. Also to establish suzerainty, that Tibet actually belongs to China, this particular narrative had to be established, and this was much before when the proclamation of People's Republic of China was done. So Tibet basically had to be annexed by China based on two things, ideological and pragmatism. Pragmatism is we have to secure the southern borders of China. China has been a very insecure country because its own experiences with colonialism is very different. That is why, in order to ensure that the southern region is much more safe and secure, Tibet had to be annexed. And the second one was ideological, because Tibet was a feudal theocracy, and keeping that in mind, China thought that the people need to be liberated from being feudally theocratic, and that is why it had to be done so. So the tension started simmering. China wanted to take control of certain things. First, Tibet had to accept that yes, it is a part of China. Second, it also had to give up its relationship with other countries, as in whatever relationships Tibet had to follow with other countries will be according to China, and the trade and economic relations with different countries also had to come under China. So these were the three main points that China put in front of Tibet. Okay, so prior to 1950, Tibet had historically existed as an independent country, had its own culture, its own roots, its own nationality. Moving on, even after 1720, when the Qing dynasty established its suzerainty over Tibet, the direct control of China was not there. And after the end of the Qing dynasty rule in 1911, it became a de facto independent nation, de facto independent state. Okay, I'm sorry for this map. This is not our narrative, neither mine nor the narrative of StudyIQ in any manner. This is just for depiction. So when the Chinese, they crossed the Yangtze River, they started annexing Tibet, one after the other regions. Moving on. Yes. Sorry, I did not mark the correct answer. First is correct, definitely correct. Direct control wasn't there. And the Chinese Communist Party had made it top priority to annex Tibet before the proclamation, not after. So you see, UPSC can confuse you like this. Make sure that you know it in your heart that you have studied it properly. First is correct, second is not. One is going to be the correct answer. Moving on. The festival recalls the 13th century mother-daughter duo struggle against local rulers in protest of the imposition of taxes on the Koya people. It is a biennial festival which is considered among the largest gatherings of the tribal people in the world. So which festival is being referred to in above paragraph? Sammakka Saralamma Jatara, Rangama Zolo Jatara, Tusu Sangai Festival. The correct answer is option A, Sammakka Saralamma Jatara. Okay. So the Union Cabinet has approved a tribal university for Telangana by the name of the Sarakka Central Tribal University. This will come in the Mulugu district. The outlay for this university is rupees 889 crore, and it will be named after Sammakka Sarakka. This, of course, basically this is related to art and culture. That is why you have to know about it. It's a mother-daughter combo, and they are venerated among the local tribal people. We should know why they are venerated. See, Sammakka was said to have married to Pagi Didda Raju, who was a feudal lord of the Kakatiya, that is the Kakatiya dynasty. They ruled around the Warangal region. And what happens that when taxation was imposed on the Koya people, Saralamma, this particular family was very in touch with the Koya tribes. They had a lot of, they knew the plight of the Koya people. So Saralamma, who was the daughter of Sammakka, she perished in the war against the local rulers in protest of the taxes. But Sammakka vanished into the hills. And these are the goddesses who are now venerated in Mulugu. Okay. Specifically, very importantly, we hold in Mulugu a festival for them, the Sammakka Saralamma Jatara, among the largest gatherings of the tribal people, because at that time standing against the people, even in these times, people do not want to stand against the wrong. Generally, they do not. But back then, just imagine the kind of valor these women had for their people, that they stood against the oppressor, for the oppressed. So this is a 13th century mother-daughter duo struggles against the local rulers in protest of the imposition of taxes on the Koya people. Now it starts in Medaram, and the rituals are conducted by the Koya priest according to their own customs and tradition. With respect to Israel's Iron Dome, consider the following statements. This is important because this could be asked in our examination, of course, science and technology and defense technology perspective. It is a short-range ground-to-air air defense system that includes a radar and a Tamir interceptor missile. The genesis of the Iron Dome goes back to 2006 Israel-Lebanon war. It gets activated even if the enemy missiles are launched against uninhabited area. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? See, I have time and again, if you've watched my videos on Israel-Palestine conflict recently, I have told you about the Iron Dome. And Iron Dome is basically working to intercept enemy missiles. It is creating a shield on the entire Israeli regions, Israeli country. And the genesis of it was in 2006. Although it was deployed in 2011 against the Israel-Lebanon war, when Hezbollah launched thousands of missiles against Israel, then this particular genesis took place that we have to have an Iron Dome. Okay, and when that gets activated, whenever enemy rockets come into the airspace of Israel, what happens? The radar system detects the rocket and starts tracking it. Then there is a control system that will see where the impact will be. Thereafter, launcher will fire the missile and this missile will explode, neutralizing the entire attack. Keeping in mind that Iron Dome system ignores incoming threats, it determines will land in uninhabited area. It will not, take place, because of course millions of dollars are invested in the Iron Dome. It doesn't want to, waste its missiles as well. So yes, it's a short range ground to air. Remember that, because UPSC can ask us air to air, ground to air. It goes from the ground to the air. Air defense system that includes a radar and Tamir interceptor missile. That is definitely correct. Genesis was in the Lebanon-Israel war of 2006, and it gets activated even if the enemy missiles are launched against the uninhabited areas. No. First and second are correct. Third is not. 2 only will be the correct answer. It's a short-range ground-to-air missile, air defense system, and it tracks and neutralizes any rocket or missiles which are aimed at Israeli targets. These can neutralize rockets, artillery and mortars, even aircrafts, helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicle. You have to remember it, because they can ask you in UPSC that only these things are targeted, not helicopters, aircraft. No, it can do for this as well. And I've already told you about this. The Iron Dome was actually deployed in 2011, capable of being used in all weather conditions during day as well as night. Each battery or the full unit can cost over $50 million, and one interceptor Tamir missile cost around $80,000. My God. Moving on. Consider the following statements. India is the world's largest consumer of crude oil and depends on imports to meet over 85% of its requirement. Crude oil prices rose as a result of OPEC and OPEC Plus members cutting crude oil supply, and OPEC Plus produces around 40% of the world's crude oil, with Russia as the top producer. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? So first statement is incorrect because it is the third largest consumer of crude oil, not largest. Although to meet its oil needs, it requires 85% of it from imports. So first is incorrect. Certain parts of the statement can be correct, certain parts of the statement can be incorrect. You have to ensure you read the entire statement carefully. First is incorrect for that very matter. Crude oil prices rose as a result of OPEC and OPEC Plus members cutting crude oil supply. Yes, recently it has been found out that in order to ensure that the mismatch doesn't happen too much between demand and supplies, if demand is little, then supply is too much, what will happen? It will become, crude oil will become more and more cheap. So that is making second statement to be correct. OPEC produces around OPEC Plus, which includes OPEC countries plus countries such as Russia and other countries which are also major players in oil production. OPEC Plus produces around 40% of the world's crude oil, that is correct. And Saudi Arabia is the top producer amongst that and not Russia. Russia is second. So that makes the first statement to be incorrect. Second is correct. Third is incorrect. How many are correct? 1 only will be the correct answer. Production cuts by major oil producing countries of OPEC and OPEC Plus are one of the reasons why we are seeing or witnessing oil price rise. Now, the Israel war that is going on, Israel-Palestine conflict, Hamas conflict that is going on also represents the same. Signs of improved macroeconomic conditions and easing of inflation in major oil economies such as the US also impacts the oil prices. Global oil demands touching record high with expectations of further demand expansion is also one of the reasons, because now all the economies are trying to get back on track, specifically after the COVID-19. That is why they are demanding more for their economy. And thereafter, we are seeing this rise. India is world's third largest consumer of crude oil, and import needs are met by 85% of it. OPEC Plus is a larger group of major oil producing nations, including countries such as Russia. Although Saudi Arabia is the top producer and Russia is in the second spot. You have to answer this question. This is a practice question for you. Kaliningrad is to Russia what Nakhchivan is to Armenia, Jordan, Azerbaijan, Israel. Let me take the names of those students who have answered my last question correctly so that you can answer this question as well. Okay, give me a moment. Sanchi is the correct answer. Simran, Om, Kanika, thank you Kanika, Gopesh, Pallav, thank you so much. Pallav has also answered it correctly. Then we have Raghuveer, Shubham, Suresh, Riya, thank you. Mitlesh, thank you. User CE1BV, you have also answered it correctly. Write your names if your username is such. Nikhil has answered it correctly. Shantanu has answered it correctly. Komal, Shubham, Tejas, Khushi, Abul, thank you so much. And provide PDF. Official policies say that we must provide PDF on at least 24 hours should be there. Then we have Arun. Thank you, Arun, also for answering the question, of course. Prasmith has answered it correctly. Mansi has answered it correctly. My goodness. Vaibhav, Priyadarshan, Arpit, Manoj, Ritu, Swati, Lalit, Arya, Ankit, Abhishek, Bhavya, Be Life Facts, Radha, my mobile phone, Pramila, Sandy, Anurag, Shalvi. Thank you so much all for answering the last question. Answer this question as well. See you soon.